fabulous humans, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor, and if you haven't been here before, I am blind, and today in this video we are going to answer the top 10 most Googled questions about blindness and blind people. Now, before we get started, just a small disclaimer. I don't speak for all blind or visually impaired people, and my answers are just based off of my personal experience and my lifetime worth of knowledge about blind things. So if you like this video, please give it a like, leave me a comment below, and subscribe to my channel. For this video, I really wanted to do a blind reaction for you guys. Get it? See what I did there? Blind reaction. Anyway, so my husband Jeremy is going to read me the questions, and then I'll answer. So Jeremy, what's number 1?
How do blind people read?
Oh, okay, I know this one. So, blindness is a spectrum, and that means that there are blind people who can still read print. There are blind people who use magnifiers or CCTVs, which is like a magnifying TV screen thing. And then there's large print, and you can read with Braille, which a lot of people probably have heard of, but it's a code in dots made by Louis Braille that blind people read with their fingers. And then there's my personal favorite, audiobooks. I'm a big Audible fan over here. And yeah, that's how blind people read books.
How do blind people know when to stop wiping?
Everybody's always super interested in this question, but to me, it's just like something I've always done. Obviously, my whole life I've been blind, so I haven't really thought about it that much. I guess it comes with experience, and it's just something you learn by feel through the toilet paper, you guys. Like, you use the toilet paper, and it's just something that you learn. Like, you can tell when you're dry, you can tell when like you feel clean. I mean, honestly, like, have you guys never gone to the bathroom in the dark, or like, do you always look at the toilet paper? Because to me, that seems odd. All I can tell you is there's no sniffing going on over here. We're not feeling like our backsides. It doesn't work like that. So I guess it's just a fifth sense that you gain over time. What's next, Jeremy?
How do blind people dream?
Are we supposed to dream differently? For me, I dream just like I see. So I've never seen, but like, I've never seen 2020. So I've never dreamed 2020, and I still have like color and everything in my dreams. So I don't know, maybe people with different visual levels dream different, but I just dream exactly like I see.
How do blind people see?
Okay, so blindness is a spectrum, and a lot of people just use blind as a blanket term. So you can have vision and be blind, and you can be totally like stereotypically in the dark and be blind. But for this scenario, we are talking about a spectrum, and the spectrum starts with 20/20 sighted people, lucky people. Then we have legally blind, which is like 22/40, below 22/40. So to me, as a blind person, that's like you have a lot of vision. Like, you're so close to being sighted, but you're just kind of missing the mark, right? Then you have visually impaired people. But in like the blind community, a lot of times we say like high partial, medium partial, and low partial. And high partial obviously means like you are partially sighted, less than legally blind, but you still have a good bit of vision. And then medium partial, you still see pretty well, but not so great, right? Then you get to my side of the spectrum, which is like low partial or blind, because you could technically say I'm visually impaired or low partial because I do technically see something, But you guys, I cannot use the vision that I have. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's just kind of there, and there's not much I can do with it. So I just say that I'm blind. From a medical perspective, I'm blind. And going into the next part of that is just blind, which I feel like most people, when they hear blind, they just assume in the dark. But that's just not like 100% true. A lot of blind people see something, if that makes sense, even if it's just light or light perception or movement. A lot of blind and visually impaired people still see something. And then, of course, there are those blind people who see absolutely nothing, are totally blind. So that's a really long way of explaining it, but it deserved a long answer.
How do blind people use computers?
Okay, so blind people use computers, again, talking about the whole spectrum. There are magnifying programs for people who have a lot of vision left, but still need an extra boost to see the computer screen. And then there are screen readers, which is what I would use, like JAWS, which is just like a program on the computer that reads all the text and the interesting things that I need to know on the computer screen. And there are other programs such as NVDA, or if you have an Apple computer, there's VoiceOver. So, yeah, that's what I use.
How do blind people watch movies?
Okay, so a lot of blind people just sit down and watch a movie just like all their sighted peers. So that's one option. The other option is audio description, which I personally love. And that's where someone has already watched the movie, and during the editing process, they go in and they tell you what is happening on the screen. So you get all the visual elements of the movie through the audio description, such as, you know, when Netflix comes on the app and it says, or it has the colorful N spinning around, well, audio description says, a spectrum of colors unfolds, creating the letter N, Netflix. So I get to see the pretty colors swirling too. I really wanted to share that with you guys.
How do blind people drive?
Well, not legally. That's the short answer. But I can say that I feel like the majority of blind people have driven at some point in their lives. I have personally driven a car several times, whether it be in a field, on a dirt road, in a parking lot. I've even drove some really nice cars. I drove a brand new Camaro, and I drove a Volvo. So that was some trust right there. But anyway, I guess my not crashing is dependent on the fact that I'm not the person who gets behind the wheel and wants to press the gas all the way down. So that's good. And I usually have like my mom or my grandpa sitting there, left, left, turn the steering wheel left, press the gas a little harder. It usually looks something like that. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. And I guess I could tell you guys my like traumatic driving experience really quick. So, the day after I graduated high school, I convinced my mother to let me drive her car on a dirt road going to my grandpa's house. Now, at the time that I asked to do this, the road was dead. There were no cars. It was the middle of the day. This is just a country dirt road. And my mom's like, sure. So my mom's always down to let me drive a car. And so we switch seats. She's in the passenger seat. I'm in the driver's seat. And this is also a stick shift. So my mom is explaining to me how to work the gear. And clearly I don't do this every day. So it's a challenge. So she's giving me the directions. Everything's going really well. And my mom's preparing me to turn into my grandpa's like road to go to his house, right? And I missed the turn. And it's like the universe was upset at me because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, cars start coming from every direction. And it's a lot of cars. And I start to panic. And my mom's panicking, and she's like, Taylor, just calm down. Just listen to what I'm saying, follow the directions, and we'll survive. Okay, it wasn't that bad, but I mean, it was scary, okay? So she gives me the directions. We turn around, and I'm still doing all this driving, so I have to make a U turn and everything. We get onto the road, we get to my grandpa's house, we get out of the car, and my mom's like, You did it! It's a really good thing that you're good at listening to directions. And I'm like, I never want to drive again. And I haven't to this day. That was enough for me.
How do blind people use phones?
Well, some blind people don't really do anything differently. A lot of them hold it close to their face. So if you ever see me in real life holding my phone to my face like this, I'm not smelling it, I promise. I'm pretending like I can see it, okay? So that's one thing. But on Apple phones, they have like things where you can zoom in, you can make your print bigger, you can invert the colors, and I personally utilize voiceover. Okay, so I stole Jeremy's phone so I could show you guys.
10:08 p.m.
So it says it's 10:08 p.m.
Wednesday, September 11th.
And that's the date, September 11th.
10:08 p.m.
10:08.
Show notifications button.
Notification button.
Flashlight off button.
That's where you do the flashlight.
Camera button.
And the camera. So basically, that's what my phone does every time I want to use it.
How do blind people cook?
Great question. I feel like this is a great time for a shameless plug. So I do my cooking videos and you guys can watch it here. But I really just feel like when I go in the kitchen, I just start cooking. However, I do use things that make it more accessible for me. Like I have bump dots on the stove. I don't use liquid measuring cups at all. I just use regular, like solid measuring cups. And that makes it a lot easier, and it involves a lot of tactile feedback.
How do blind people and deaf people communicate?
This is hard. I don't really feel like I'm an expert on this question, but I will answer it the best that I can. I did go to a school for the deaf and the blind, but at the time I had a lot more vision, so I did learn a tad bit of sign language. But from my understanding, you would just do sign language like in the hand of the person who is blind, and they would do the signs back. And that's my very poor explanation of how I believe that it works. But to me, in 2024, you would probably utilize technology a lot now. I would honestly say that's probably the easiest way, but just might not always be convenient if you're like face to face. That was all 10 questions, but Jeremy says he has a bonus question for us, so take it away, Jeremy.
This is just for you. How do blind and visually impaired people get around?
How do we get around? On our feet? Just kidding. Blind people use public transportation like buses, trains, light rails. Ubers and Lyfts have made traveling a lot more accessible. Lots of blind people fly on their own. We walk around from place to place with our canes or guide dogs. And there's also paratransit, which is a thing that is a program where like blind or disabled people can get from point A to point B in like a more simplified way of travel where there's a driver and everything. Some people even hire personal drivers, but I'm not that bougie yet. Okay, you guys, those were my answers to the top 10 most Googled questions about blind people and blindness. So I hope you guys found my answers to be satisfactory and educational. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel, and if you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below and I will answer them on a future Q&A video. See you guys next time. Bye!